So if diversity matters so much and bias is the adverse of diversity, why do we have it? Why haven't we just stopped bias? Well, we've got this one problem with stopping bias. We are organizations of humans, and to be human is to be biased. It is very natural. It is, in fact, one of the few things that all humans have in common is our biases. And bias is not a bad thing within itself. Bias is what allows us to make those very fast decisions that allow us to stay alive, for example, run, play. If you're standing there thinking and you've got it wrong, problems can happen. Bias is what allows us to get through a supermarket quickly. We're not looking at every item, every label, and every aisle to make our selections. We know the things that we like, the brands, the flavor profiles, and we use those to pick items more quickly so we can go shopping in an hour and not days. Bias is not bad. The problems happen when we start applying those biases, those shortcuts, to each other. And it starts with the general ones. So we all have a sense of the biases that are around things that are generally protected: gender identity, race, age, disability, sexual orientation, veteran status, and the biases that may occur based on those demographics. But biases go far deeper than that. Humans are triggered by far more than just the surface. For example, someone's accent, if they have tattoos, if they have children, or their relationship status, what they look like, what zip code or location they were born and raised in, can all trigger biases. And it goes even deeper. Drink preferences, pastimes, weight, height, phone numbers, emails. All of these tiny little pieces of information that we are observing, that we are gathering, can trigger our biases, jump those shortcuts to a conclusion that might have absolutely nothing to do with the individual that that conclusion is being drawn to. But beyond that, bias is not just jump to the conclusion or not jump to the conclusion. It is a spectrum. So on one end, we talk about the concepts of unconscious bias. You're not even aware that those biases are being triggered. I never even thought of that. Where things are happening and you're partaking in habits that have negative impact, and you're doing so without any awareness that it's happening. We all do it because we all have biases. On the other end of that spectrum is conscious bias, where we are very aware of the biases we have. A very common example of that is if you are part of a community, such as an alum from a certain university or from a certain city, and you have a rivalry, a team rivalry, a sports rivalry. We love to hate the other side. We are very aware that we have biases against people who are big fans of another team when we have our hearts in one team. But there's also a lot of in between. As we move through the journey where we have to question the foundation that these biases are from. Women can't be engineers. Absolutely not. That is ridiculous. It's a fact. Men make better engineers than women. Really? Well, why? There's nothing biologically that would create that fact. Women have just as much ability in math and science. Oh, well, I never thought of that. And so the journey begins. And as you continue through the journey, it starts with then, well, what about the examples to the contrary? What about that person over here, that person over there? They're fantastic. Oh. And those rule exceptions start becoming norms as more and more of them build up, as more stories pile on top of more stories, until finally you get into that conscious realm of breaking that foundational element that has created the bias in the first place. It is a journey. And those journeys to awareness come from two places. Awareness comes from either experience or knowledge.